This podcast is sponsored by eBay Canada. eBay Canada is here to help. They've been supporting Canadian small business retailers for 25 years and have recently launched their Up and Running program to meet an urgent need to get business online today. New business sellers can get a free e-commerce store for 90 days when they visit ebay.ca/upandrunning.
It's Vancouver's podcast on the Canada's Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Angela Fay from Canada's Podcast, welcoming Karim Ben-Jaafar here from Vancouver today. Hi.
Hi, Angela. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. We're having a beautiful blue sky day over here on Vancouver Island. How about you in Vancouver?
Well, I suspect your background may be doctored. I'm not an expert.
Absolutely. It's not quite this, but it's not far off.
I'll take your word for it. I might be getting deep faked here. But no, Vancouver in June. We think it's sunny and it's raining, and we think it's raining, and oh my God, the sun comes out. So but we can't complain.
We could probably have a whole entire podcast on the crazy and beautiful things about Vancouver, but this is a little bit more about you. So I would love to get more about your entrepreneurial journey, Karim.
Well, if it's about me, your viewership just dropped to 1. Hi, Mom. So real quick, yeah, I've been in tech now for about 12 years, specifically in fintech. I was very, very lucky. It was primarily right place, right time. I joined a company that went public, and then we spun out after that to another company that was a founding employee. That was a 3-year journey, again, in fintech, specifically payments. We were acquired. And afterwards, yeah, then we did the insane thing of joining the executive team one company while founding another, and sitting on the advisory board of a third company, and primarily just to realize that I came a little bit late to the game. I didn't get into tech or anything serious really outside of corporate business till I was 29. So I was dealing with people who were 23, 24, and everybody's much smarter than me in this game. So I just had to widen my perspective as much as possible, take on as much as I could. And again, because I was lucky enough to surround myself with very smart people, I got the dual benefit of mentorship and learning, as well as, piggybacking off their success to the point where now, I'm currently at Beanworks. I'm the president. I was brought on 3 years ago by Catherine Dahl, our CEO and founder. And, we've been tripling growth every year. And I think, there's some excitement stuff happening for us in the future. I teach, I lecture at SFU, our university here in the MBA program, and the guest lecture on entrepreneurship at the School of Business. I run accelerators and incubators, whether it's a 3-week program to a 6-month program. And I speak at conferences, and I just do the best I can to help businesses understand that growth isn't a difficult thing. It's formulaic. You just have to know what quadrant you're in, and you can step in the footsteps of giants before you. There is, of course, a little bit of art. It's not all science, but ultimately, if you have decent product market fit, a relevant thesis, not only should you do well, you should do incredibly well. It's still blue sky out there. So that's what I do. I'm a growth expert, and I'm 44. I think this will be my last company, and after that, I'm probably just going to just advise and provide value wherever I'm asked for once my journey here at Beanworks is done.
Now we're going to go more into the quadrants. That's our part of our plan for today. But I want to go back a little bit to pre-29. How did you, what's your roots and your passion as a kid, and how did you end up in, or were you born and raised in Vancouver?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Vancouver. We spent a few years in Kelowna. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I'm not that interesting. I was a wild kid.
I'm not going to let you sit on that one. I think you're incredibly interesting. So,
well,
the backstory is always intriguing.
My IG is fake. It's glam life. I was wild. I had some pretty rowdy friends. I was one of those guys that my father came from Tunisia. He was in the military. He went to Italy to get an education, then France. So he had a degree in mathematics and a degree in fine arts. And he came here, and he was a truck driver. And growing up, I always felt my dad was the smartest man in the room. And yet, he can never, really get to the level that I thought of his contribution that I felt that he could. And, I had a chip on my shoulder because of that. And you know, when I was going to university, I was a bouncer, and I got into that whole lifestyle, and I had some rowdy friends, and I made every mistake you can imagine. And finally, what triggered it for me was humility. That this idea that I deserve more out of life, my father deserved more life than he's getting, and then therefore I deserve more out of life. That was misguided. And you know, it was really my father who, at one point, when I you know, made a series of errors, he's like, okay, you're not a kid anymore. People don't think it's funny anymore. You need to grow up. And if you don't, I'm your dad. I'm always going to be there for you. But at some point, you need to start taking on serious responsibility now. And that was a wake-up call. And then I realized that waking up with day, not looking at what I don't have, but being grateful for what I do, you know, paradoxically, actually lets you get the things that you want. Because gratitude and humility, that's an inviting characteristic. I mean, whether you're spiritual or religious, I think there's an element to that where the universe responds, but people respond as well. And nobody likes somebody who feels that they got a raw deal. You know, take personal responsibility, better yourself, make the people around you better. In service to others, you serve yourself. So I had a massive change in my late 20s, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I won the lottery. I married the best possible person on the planet. I wake up every day wondering, how the hell am I this lucky? 2 wonderful children. My daughter just graduated from law school. My son's in business, and as well, he's working at CIBC while going to university. So my kids have never been rebellious. So all the stuff I did to my parents didn't happen to me. And I surrounded myself with the right people. I think I've adopted the right values, and I just worked my ass off. But in a way, not like just in a way of saying, how do I bring value? How do I get into a free exchange in a free market system? I have to do things that people voluntarily want to purchase off me, which means I have to provide a tremendous amount of value in what I do. So whether it's the products we build or the services we put together or the ideas we put forth, it has to win in the marketplace of ideas. And it has to be of such quality that people line up to give you their cash, as opposed to, I deserve more cash because, you know, I got a raw deal when I was younger. So that little paradigm shift, it's super obvious now, and you know, in your 30s and now in my 40s, but when you're late teen or early 20s, you can say it, but you don't really live it. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. You can hear the words, but you have to get, you have to get your ass kicked a few times by life to realize that, man, that attitude doesn't help at all.
And I concur completely. There's something magical about our 40s, I got to say, about, you know, you've kind of done the hard yards, you know, had some great life experiences, and now it just kind of emerges and happens for us. But I want to jump onto that, creating value for customers and, you know, having people buy from you, because let's talk a little bit about Beanworks. You know, as we met each other, you told me that, you know, the last little era here has been some of the highest number of clients being onboarding with Beanworks. So can you share, what are you doing? What's the actual product or service of Beanworks, and why now? What's happening?
Yeah. So from, let's say, 2008 to 2020, really, till January, we were on a 12-year, you know, a bull run. The economy was growing. You know, we had a recession in 2018, but that necessitated also a recovery. And businesses for the last 12 years, you know, especially if you're really founding a company in 2012, 2013, all you've known is growth. I have the good fortune of having been mentored by people who were around during, in fact, some of my friends I was, you know, a bouncer during the dot-com bubble, and I met some pretty interesting, very smart people, and they've been lifelong friends because they made, you know, their fortune and they took a serious hit in the 2000s. So they've been through the 2000 dot-com bubble, then the 2008 Great Recession, and this is their 3rd time. So in having these conversations and also studying incredibly smart people, for example, I can drop some names right now of listeners can go and I have a reading list that I highly recommend people follow. For example, right now, Patrick Campbell he used to be from ProfitWell, now he calls or Price Intelligently. His company's now called ProfitWell. Really put on the data that shows that what matters to customers in a recession is incredibly different than what matters in, you know, a growth economy. So looking at the numbers and listening to the war stories of those before me, as well as, you know, adapting it to the technology and the facts of 2020, the idea was, well, it's now February. Let's commit to the reality that we are now in a recession and that our buyers care about different things. They're scared, they're, government is shutting down their businesses, or they're voluntarily shutting it down because of COVID. And there's a negative feedback loop now as the economy contracts. People are worried about cash. Why don't we, instead of just hoping that this is a small blimp, let's lean into the recession. Let's completely shift our value prop to matter to our customers. And just give you a very interesting number. If you look at, for example, March 2019, and these numbers, by the way, are provided again by ProfitWell. If you look at, imagine you have zero, so you have a graph, and the zero line is value props that perform like everyone else. So it doesn't mean that it's zero value prop. It just means, you put one unit you put $1 in and you get whatever the average dollar is out, 50 cents on your value prop in customers, or a dollar, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So that's the baseline. Value props for the last few years, prior to 2019, let's say the last 2 years, that were about, hey, we're going to increase efficiency in your company, or we're going to help you make money. Those converted, let's say, at 20% above the average. And value props that were going to help you save money, they converted 11% above the average. So everybody always wants to save money. But during a growth economy, what really matters is, the quality of life, the things that, I can spend a little money to accelerate my growth. Or another one, if it's not purely about growth, it's think on the terms of like what we call the DEA model: delegate, eliminate, automate. So let's say there's something that is of high business value, but very low personal value, something like payroll. Your business payroll's just got to get done, but no accountant, went to school to learn how to do payroll. It's like one of the worst parts of their job. AP, what we do here, that is the worst part of their job. That's why we're just such a rocket company, because nobody wants to do it. But it has to get done. So when you can go to someone and say, look, that part of your job that you hate doing, well, you can delegate it, eliminate it, or automate it by our product or service. That's a very easy sell, right? As long as you do it well, and there's certain obviously rules around that. But now in this economy, if you look at the numbers from March 2020, value props that had to do with, hey, we're going to make your life easy, we're going to help grow your business, you're going to be more efficient, that dropped to 8% above the average. But value props that were about, we're going to help you keep the lights on, we're going to help you save money, we're going to have to make sure that you have to lay off as few people as possible, those value props were 31%, if I remember correctly, above the average. So in other words, when you do the math, value props that had to do with, we're going to save you money, were 3 times more effective in March of 2020 than in March of 2019. And value props that were about DEA, delegate, eliminate, automate, we're going to make your life easier, we're going to help you, up Maslow's hierarchy, move from the basic needs to self-actualization, those dropped in half. So that N is massive. You never see that. So that means you have to pay attention. That means that you may have an opinion on the economy. You may have a sense of what your buyers want, but who knows what your buyers want? Your buyers. And when you have an aggregate set of data, you can say, now we got to change our value prop. So all that being said, we made the choice in February to make a very dangerous assumption. Well, maybe dangerous is not the right word, but we risked it all by saying, look, the recession is here. Our buyers are scared. We have to be humble, and we have to tweak ourselves a little bit in terms of what we do, but a lot of times in terms of the way we explain our value, so that it resonates with the real emotional and business necessities of our customers. So the way I wrap this all up is we did something called the 3 R's. Our entire business was now based on reduce costs, reduce risk, remote work. So before that, we had a different value prop. Now we went to, it's all about the 3 R's. So every piece of content, our website, the way we train our salespeople, our customer success, our customer experience, our product releases, all has to do with, does it meet the stations of the 3 R's? Does it reduce risk for our customers? Does it reduce cost for our customers? Or does it enable remote work? Like getting off paper checks, keeping the accounts from having to come into the office to do tedious processes when now they don't want to come to the office. Those are the 3 things that matter. And we leaned into it. And what happened was, we've been, again, a triple, double type company. So in tech parlance, you want to triple sales, double sales, right? Like you want to go that VC pathway. So we're incredibly effective at it. We were celebrated for it, won awards. We're objectively valued as a high growth company. To despite that growth, we absolutely knocked it out of the park the last 3 months. So previous success was eclipsed by current success in a much more difficult market. So I think we added 35% more customers in March, April, May than we did in March, April, May of any time in the past.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
And thank you for those insights. Fantastic. One of my questions for you, Karim, is in regards to being an accelerator guru. That's my words, not yours. Is, you know, a person that, you know, goes through the process of helping other companies accelerate. Obviously, somehow outside of your own company, you find time to do that. Is it a business as well? Like, are you an investor?
Well, yeah. So, well, my business model is this: you give value, and then you want to put yourself in a position where people enthusiastically open up their wallets. So right now, I have 23 companies that I coach, and again, very, very straightforward manner that we do that in. There's a certain time commitment. They have to show seriousness of purpose. You know, we spend a half hour on the phone once every 2 weeks or an hour, depending on their business needs. And at the beginning, you know, the first 3 months, we just get to know each other. But I give them everything I have to give, which is primarily just, you know, my opinions and my vantage point. It's very easy to say, "Thou shalt do this." You know, they're the ones who do it. So I have no illusions as to how hard guys work. But in return, after 3 months or so, it's like, okay, what do you think this is worth? And I never want to take, you know, dollars out of the business. So usually it's in terms of advisor shares, or I joined the board formally, I joined the advisory board, and, you know, we work together. This way I have skin in the game.
Yes.
And now, yeah, so that's like my passion once I'm done at Beanworks would be primarily to just do that, to just work with really smart people, solve meaty problems as a team, help them grow their business, and only participate in their success if they're successful.
Well, and it sounds to me like a little mini Shark's Tank / Dragon's Den, Karim's version of it.
or yeah, the hippo pit.
Well, and could you share a little bit of insights on the type of companies that you're looking out for in that accelerator, either pre-COVID, like how many of the companies came on pre-COVID and versus post-COVID, and what are you looking for now coming, you know, in a recovery phase?
You ask great questions, Angela. That's awesome. You're asking for my secret playbook and
Sorry. And I do in all fairness, I understand the playbook, and if it's a little bit secretive, it's trends, if nothing else.
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, you got me talking about my difficult childhood. So we had an Oprah moment. I was talking about my dad. I was about to cry. Now you're asking for the secret sauce. I think you're gonna do very well if not already. No, it's quite simple. Different investors have different investor theses. So I admire certain. In fact, there's quite a few VCs and wealth managers that I admire. And for example, on our board, one of our investors is FinTop, so Joe Maxwell, and he has a thesis. And this guy's just a wizard. He's one of the best people I've ever worked with. And you know, he has a thesis around financial technology. And they double down on it, and they're incredibly successful. Like I think their benchmarks, they blow, you know, firms of their size out of the water. My approach is a little bit different. I don't have a thesis on a marketplace. I'm not smart enough. I don't have a full team or the experience that Joe does. For me, I look for one thing. It's the leadership team, and I use, you know, Roberge's approach, you know, from HubSpot. The idea that if you do regressive analysis of the traits that cause, particularly in his case, sales and marketing people, but I think it applies to leadership, that have them perform better than their competitors or better than others. In that aggressive analysis of traits, you can you can rank order traits. You can say things like, you know, confidence or vision or, you know, grandiosity, all this and that. Like, but the traits that are positively correlated with success are intelligence, coachability, and curiosity. And that's what I look for. If I'm dealing with a leadership team, a founder, and it could be somebody that their product makes no sense to me. Like I just like the pet rock, digital pet rock. It makes no sense. But if I'm a team, and I know, like if I sold you on Pokemon right now, if it was my idea, we never heard of it. Yeah, people going to run around and they're going to hit like a Squirtle. What the hell's a Squirtle? Well, it's a squirrel turtle, and you're going to catch it with a yellow ball. So you're going to like enslave animals. Kind of.
Exactly. Who would have ever guessed, right?
But I'm the dumbest guy in the room. So I said, well, maybe you know something I don't. But what I do know is that you come across as coachable, you're intelligent, and you're curious. Every other trait means nothing to me. You know, conscientiousness or working hard, I think that's just table stakes. That has to be there. Like, this is a hard game. You need to work hard. If you have the hubris of thinking you can build in 3 years what takes other people 30 years to build, the work ethic has to be there. Has to be there. So for me, I don't even consider work ethic. It has to be there. You know, work ethic, integrity. Those are just a
Givens. Those are givens. Yeah.
But if that is there, it's those 3 traits. And I think my thesis has worked pretty well. I have companies that have succeeded wildly, and I have companies that are still trucking along. But so far, none of them have gone under. And then we've had some pretty wild successes too. So I don't know. That's my playbook. And I invite everybody to do it. Work with people who are coachable, intelligent, and curious, and you'll do fine.
Access eBay's 170 plus million buyers around the world. With eBay Canada, you can stay local, sell global, and power up. That's ebay.ca/up and running. Offer is open until August the 22nd.
So one thing we talked about earlier was some insights on some general insights, if you like, given that we have quite a diverse audience of listeners. So, you know, most of them are business decision makers or entrepreneurs for sure. Navigating the bear market. So we talked a little bit about what a bull market is. These are sort of new terms for me, really, as far as, you know, when there's just natural growth. But the bear market is not that. And we hinted earlier that we were going to talk about the quadrants.
Yeah.
So let's dive into that a little bit. Could you share your intel there?
Sure, no problem. So I'm just going to pull out my crib notes here on my markets. So let's imagine this. You have just simple 2x2 grid. Okay, you have your company right now is in a low cash position or a high cash position. Okay, and then so that's the y-axis, and the x-axis is, you know, you believe the recovery will be slow or you believe the recovery will be fast. Simple. Right. So I have a little bit of cash in the bank so I can survive for 3 months, or I have a lot of cash in the bank, I can survive for 2 years. And then the other axis is this thing, you know, where it's a V-shaped recovery. So we just got to kind of weather the storm for 3 to 6 months, or this is a U-shaped recovery and it'll take 2 years. And for example, if we look at, let's say, you know, around 9/11, when, you know, government shut down only for 2-3 days, the entire travel industry, the lowest point was 18 months later. Now we've been shut down for 3 months. So if the past is an indicator of future, but again, there are new logistics are in place, the world is flatter, we have globalization. Like, you know, again, these are macroeconomic conversations that are for people way smarter than me, right? So I'm not going to pretend that I know what it is, but you just say, look, let's prepare for both. But ultimately, you got to pick a quadrant too. So for your business, you've got to pick a quadrant. So let's go over, if you want, I can go over a strategy for all 4 quadrants.
Let's do it. I think we should do that, because I think people are generally pretty aware of where they are in the quadrant. You know how much cash you have in your bank. I understand the recovery is a little bit of a projection, you know, and people are doing their own research and trusting their gut a little bit. But let's talk about, you know, a strategy for each quadrant.
Sure. Okay, so let's take the hardest one.
Okay.
You have 2 months of cash left in the bank, and the recovery is going to take forever. It's going to take 18 months, 24 months. So there are 2 types of companies there are 2 types of strategies that you can employ. Okay, you can have the companies. You can be one of 2 companies, is a better way to say it. You can be the kind of company that decides to cut staff too much. You cut way too deep, and a year later you realize that, you know, every time you let go of an engineer, it costs you $80,000 to $100,000 to rehire that role. So you cut too deep and you regret it. And there's a second type of company who is filing for bankruptcy. That's it. You have to take this very seriously. You have to protect your business. If you have a little cash and it's going to be a long recovery, again, which one do you want to be? Do you want to be conservative and cut too deep, but live? Or do you want to, shut down your company 6 months from now? It's yes, I know that's a very hard approach, and it may sit not well with some members of the audience going, well, it can't be that. No, when there's a doubt, there's no doubt. you have a financial responsibility, not just to shareholders, but to your employees, to your brand, to your customers. You got to
Absolutely.
keep your company alive. And if that means that you got to make some very difficult decisions and let go of some very talented people who will cost your business a tremendous premium to hire that person back or someone like them back, that's all right. You know, life is long and opportunities abound. Survive.
Right.
Now you say, okay, that's great, Karim. You know, that falls in the category of, I didn't want to hear that, but like, yeah,
Right.
you know, there's no real insight there, right?
No, but it's the hard reality, right? It's the hard pragmatic reality.
Yeah, but then you say, okay, now what else can we do? Well, now there's some strategies. You can say, look, cash is king. So here's what you do. What value do you bring to the market? So what do your customers care about? Because remember, if you have less cash, remember your customers have less cash. So why don't you do this? What if you can offer your product and you say, look, I know cash is very, very tight for you, it's tight for us, but normally if you pay for our product 1 year in advance, right? Rather than go monthly, you pay yearly, we give you 8%. And I highly recommend everybody say you get 1 month free because it sounds better than 8%, right? So rather than give me $1,000, $100 a month, you give me $1,000 for the year, right? But you give it to me up front. That's, every business does that. What you can do is say, look, why don't you take our product now and you get it for $600? You get 50% off. You know, you make it so compelling that your customers will say, you know what, I know the value of your product. We don't have a lot of money right now, so we're not going to, so your prospects, we're not going to purchase it because, you know, we would have purchased it if we had more money, or, you know, during the selling cycle, you had a 30% chance of winning our business. But the fact that you made your product so attractive, given the price point, it means that it's no longer, this is no longer a decision, this is an IQ test. Yeah, of course we're going to buy you guys at 50 cents on the dollar, your product. And what happens is, but remember, it sunsets after a year. So you survive the year by getting the cash today, you know, so your business hopefully is cash flow positive. Yes, your ARPA has gone, our average revenue per account has gone down. However, you've survived. You've got a year's worth of cash up front, even though you're giving it away. And those customers a year or two from now, you start to gradually raise them up. So you put in the contract, this is a 1 year deal only. You know, you can even put in the rates automatically go up. There's an auto renewal 30 days out from your contract renewal. It'll be renewed at 25% because this is a big 50% discount. So year 2, you're 25%, and year 3, you're back to parity. Like there's a ton of things you can do, but the best lever you can pull is to say, not we're going to give you 50% discount, but you pay us monthly. No, it's get the cash now. You pay us up front for the year. We're going to give you 50% of what you normally would have paid us, right? So that is like a survival mechanism. It works. And people say, well, you know, Steve Jobs said your brand is your price. Well, yeah, fair enough. But your brand's not alive 3 months from now. What are you going to do?
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. So,
okay.
You know, go ahead.
So, and I like pricing, and I'm sure we could probably come up with 1 or 2 other strategy in the hard quadrant, but let's jump to another quadrant for fun.
Which one do you want?
So we've got low cash flow and maybe a V, because so that was like the U economy recovery, right? We're longer, slower recovery and low cash flow. Let's talk low cash flow, maybe V. What?
All right. That's fun. So let's say you say, yeah, we only have 3 months, but you know, we think that in 3 months from now, the economy is going to get better. So what do you do? So what you can do is say, look, we can survive for 3 months, but remember, my motto is this: you can always grow. Like you're never, even the model of cutting cash, the reason why we're signing people up is because we want to grow our business. You know, we want every month to grow by 5-10%. We never want to stop growing. So under the fast recovery but low cash, you can say this. First of all, you got to be right that your customers will have cash in 3 months, but you say, here's what we're going to do. We're worried about cash, you're worried about cash. Why don't we do this? You sign a 1-year contract with us now, and we will waive your first 3 months. So by the time that your cash flow gets close to the negative mark, you sign up all these customers and you start billing them, you know, when they start having money again. So one of my portfolio companies, they deal with dental offices. So the government shut down 250,000 dental offices in North America. So what they did is they reached out to every dental office and said, look, we get that you're shut down. Why don't we do this? Take our product now. because it's a patient communication tool. It's called Intivio, fantastic company. And they say, now is not the time not to have our tool. Even if your business shut down, you want to be in constant communication with your customers. Say, hey, look, you should be flossing, you should be doing this, and what's going to happen when people haven't been to the dentist and they got stank breath for 4 months, and now all of a sudden, how are you going to book all those appointments? So you also want to be managing their expectations. So that way, by the time you can reopen, you have an orderly queue. And what about people who have dental surgeries, or people who are high risk, right? Or people who had fillings that are overdue, like all this sort of stuff. So you say, look, now is not the time to be without our product. So here's what you do. You take it, use it for free, because it's a critical part. It's a must-have, not a nice-to-have. And 3 months from now, 4 months from now, once you have butts in your seats, in fact, we won't even put a time limit to it. When you have butts in your seats again for a full 30 days, we will auto-activate the billing. So what they're doing, they're just gobbling up market share. They're signing up all the dental offices who before, they had to do the demo and go through the procurement process. Now the dentist, wait a minute, I get this tool, I get it for free. And 3-4 months from now, when my business is back up and running, only then you're going to charge me. And then they said, look, and if you don't like it, you don't have to pay us. We just turn it off, right? So they're actually not in the position of low cash. They're in we were saying fast recovery, but because they're a very savvy set of operators, they're acting as though they have low cash because they love the strategy. They said, okay, we can survive for 2 years. However, let's pretend we can't. And let's just use this as an opportunity. Instead of signing up 30, 40 dental offices a month, we're going to sign up 60, 70 now. We're going to double our count. And the moment the dental offices reopen, we're embedded in all of these customers, and bam, we're going to get a massive spike in revenue. And we also give them, because we believe in our product. Remember, value is everything. We believe in our product. So that way, if they're using us for, a month or 2 or 3, and they say, this is not that great. Hey, you didn't sign your firstborn away. You just hit the delete button. But their product is so good that they know once the dental office start using it, they're never going to not want to use it.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk what's happening in the, the higher cash flow companies. What are they doing right now?
So if you have high cash, again, do you think it's a slow or long recovery? If it's a slow recovery, again, you don't have to lay people off, but you should maybe freeze hires. Only go, and this is what falls in the dull category. But if you have a lot of cash, but it's a slow recovery, maybe freeze hires, rethink your annual operating plan. But this is an opportunity now, because you have the cash, to say, well, this market conditions are going to be this way for 2 or 3 years. Because we have the cash, let's rethink our product roadmap or service roadmap, and let's pivot to make sense for what makes sense for our customers. So remember, in the low cash positions, you really can't mess with your product roadmap. You don't have the cash to really develop. So those more value prop and strategic. This now you can be a little bit more operational. You can say, we're going to, for example, let's say you had you had a financial tool, and you have the difference between we're going to let people submit expenses for the travel. Well, nobody's traveling anymore. Trade shows are shut down or whatnot. So that may not be as important to our customers, but we have the cash. It's going to be a long recovery. So why not then we developed a way for them to manage their forecast their liabilities? That's a tool that really helps out, right? So when you release things, so we're, for example, Beanworks, we're releasing an expense module. We didn't orient it around travel. So we have, there's another company that their CEO put out a big long statement saying, you're going to have to start paying for our services are now at a higher premium, simply because all their income really came from people using corporate credit cards on travel. What they should do is say, look, let's pivot our product to make sense for how people are going to be submitting expenses now, given that nobody's traveling. So you can play with your product roadmap and again say, look, the vision in your head as a founder, your vision in your head as a head of product or CEO, you have to listen to the market. And if that means you make changes, you make changes. So, here at Beanworks, we did it. Other companies are doing it. And so it's just a question of develop the products that make sense for your companies in this economy, not develop for the products that make sense to you and your vision for what your company does.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's, curious I'll try and articulate like this.
Yeah.
even in a pandemic or bear market, pardon me, energy doesn't just dissipate,
No.
right? So when you have a slowing of the economy, you have a ramping up of other things, right? Energy just kind of gets dispersed. So what do you think is happening now as, with this shutdown of economy? Where is the energy flowing, Karim? Like what's happening in our local or regional communities, I guess, that you haven't seen happen before?
Yeah, I think that high tide raises all ships, and low tide raises all ships as well. So the average amount of dollars, or the average amount of energy, I think, in the market, it's different. There is a delta. It's undeniable. But that being said, like all things in life, it's not evenly distributed. So who was getting a spike today that wasn't getting a spike yesterday? So there are the counter-cyclical businesses, and very, very, to the point where it's cliche now. There are the Zoom meetings, the Netflix, there's a bit Amazon that's doing well just through market forces. But they don't make up all of the energy. They don't make up all of the growth. It's businesses that can say, look, I'm leaning into my customers' needs and I can be efficient. It's efficiency that's the key now. Where you would have 20, 30 players all trying to do the same thing. The best companies now are going to actually get, and again, this is counterintuitive, they're going to grow in this economy because their competitors will drop off. So now there's less offerings. There's less people out there trying to get to the eyeballs and the ears of your customers, because they're running their business incorrectly. They're running it inefficiently. So if you ran a business with great growth practices, with great marketing principles, a great operational efficiency, a great leadership team, that excellence wasn't as recognized, because when the money is flowing as it was for the last 12 years, especially the last 6 years, B players and B companies look like A's because they can just spend their way out of a problem. Now they can't. Right. So what's happening is you're going to notice the dissolvement of many companies, but you can also look at, for no real reason. I mean, everybody's going to have a story they're going to tell. Market forces is, or our product was so amazing. I don't think so. I think it was just extremely well-run companies that did the fundamentals. You had a leadership team that trusted each other, a leadership team that led with ethics and treated their people correctly, and they have like a common culture, and everybody's rowing in the right direction, and all those cliches you can think about. But these things matter now. They matter now. They didn't matter as much in the past because money was abundant. Oh, you fell a little short. Oh yeah, VC will bail you out again. Well, customers, they got money. They'll overpay for a product. Now you got to genuinely stand, in the field of battle, and you're there on merit. My company is here not because you have a VC with just massive amount of dry powder to deploy, or angels who don't know what to do with their money, so we can fake it until we make it. Now you have companies that have to be run well, great leadership, great staff, and a humble attitude of saying it doesn't matter what we think matters to the market. It matters what the market tells us what is value. So listen to your customers and produce and solve their problems. Now, you don't have to solve their problems the way they want you to solve their problems, because they're still expecting some leadership from you. So still solve their problems in ways that blow their mind. And I know maybe this sounds like a fluffy answer, but if we unpack it, it's actually it's a very hardcore answer. No longer can you hide amongst the good times, the background radiation of just plenty. If your company is around in 2 years, chances are it's because it's a great company. So, and you should have no expectation of trying to survive. You should be growing. You should say, every day, one of my competitors, their deficiencies, they've piled up. All the management deficit, and the product deficit, and their efficiency deficits. Now the chickens have come home to roost. But for us, because we were disciplined, we hired the right way, we work with great people, we take care of our customers, we live by a set of core values, and we're magnetic. A company should be magnetic. You attract the right kind of customer and repulse the wrong kind of customer. So you make sense to a certain part of the market, which means you can't be everything to everybody. There's customers that just love you, and there's not your customers, and there should be nothing in between. Those companies are going to do incredibly well. So from this, we're going to see, I think, a Darwinian sort of evolution of great companies that are going to leapfrog growth, even though they're probably scared right now. If you're a great company, you're just going to grow, and you're not going to know why. You're going to know because your competitors are going to stop being out there, because they're not going to survive. And there's going to be more for you because there's going to be more for you.
Well, and Karim, I just wrote down magnetic because I know in the beginning you were suggesting that maybe you're not the smartest person on the tool, but you have magnetism oozing from you. So there's a reason why Beanworks is experiencing huge customer growth. Right here.
We have an amazing team, and again, if you meet my, so I'm president. I was brought in by Catherine, our CEO. And you want to real dynamo. You meet Catherine at some point.
Okay, that's on my bucket list now, is meeting her too. But let's go back. Can you give me just one? I want to wrap it up and talk a little bit about you on your reading list. You said you have a great one. Could you share one or two, either inspirational quotes or inspirational people that our listeners should follow?
Yeah, I would do this. I would just rephrase it slightly as, what should your leadership team read? Because this way you have common parlance, common knowledge.
Perfect.
I would say the first book you read, and again, this table stakes to the point where there's going to be some eye rolling. Read Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Great book. It's just a leadership fable. You can read it over the weekend or one Chipotle's bathroom session. All right.
And so wait, it was 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and you know the author?
Patrick Lencioni.
Patrick Lencioni?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a quick read, and when you it'll give you a strategy and a manner by which you can say, okay, what it really does, it gives you a language to say, this is a dysfunction that we're suffering from. So the reason we're feeling this way is, I spotted it. We now have artificial harmony, or we're avoidance of conflict, or we're not being held accountable to results. Why? Because of a lack of trust, or so it tells you what the common reasons are teams don't work well together, and what to do about it. It's not prescriptive, it's descriptive. It's a leadership fable. It's very easy to read, so that would be the first book. Once you read that, if you're in the tech space, I highly recommend, of course, you read Scaling Up. Again, that's very prescriptive. That's do this, do this, do this, do that. It's inspirational as well, because it just makes you, wow, there's so many, it takes about 2 years to implement the Scaling Up methodology in your company. I also recommend, now this is a little bit more off the beaten path, but there's no reason it should be. Shannon Cisco wrote a great book called The Metronome System, and also another book called The 3-Hag Way. It's taking scaling up and putting it on steroids.
Okay.
So just like Scaling Up is it's a furtherance of the Rockefeller habits. I would say that the 3-Hag Way, and 3-Hag means highly achievable goal. So in 3 years, you can get to a highly achievable goal, and here's a roadmap for it. I would definitely recommend your team reading that, but reading that as a hardcore playbook, like a recipe. Put eggs, put flour. Oh, look, you get cake, right?
Love it.
Good ones. And then after that, there's great at work. There's who. There's measures what matters. Like if you're as a leadership team, and again, it's just a recommendation, try to do a book of the month where you say there's 4 or 5 of us, or there's 6 of us, or there's 2 of us if you're just 2 co-founders, or there's just you if you're doing UCore and it's just your company. But hold yourself accountable with the people you work with to read 1 book if you can a month, but 1 book a quarter if you feel that you can't do it, but don't fall short of that. And then discuss it and say what principles apply to us, what don't.
It's excellent. It's excellent advice. Karim, how can we get a hold of you post-podcast? What's the best way?
Whistle. I'll come. You did
like
it.
That kind of whistle?
Yes. Hey, somebody's in trouble. Yeah, just email me at, I'll give you my personal email address. Email me at K Ben-Jaafar. I know it's a tough name. KBENJAAF as in Frank AR, K Ben-Jaafar 76 at gmail.com.
Who would you love to hear from in the next, 7 days?
What do you mean?
Who, if you received 5 emails with your personal email address and you went, that's somebody I'd love to connect with, what kind of person would that be?
Well, I'll use this question to do a humble brag. So one of the things I believe in, you motivate your team by doing side projects, right? So we did like a nonprofit during the whole COVID thing. So we did something called Gratitudo. it was an app that, when people were cheering on their balconies.
Yeah.
But hey, here's a fun little thing people are doing. Why don't we do a free app, no profit, no revenue, no advertising, just something we can do, like a hackathon.
Yeah.
And what we do is, we have a little hero of the day that goes on like 2 minutes before a pre-show. And then what happens when people are cheering, we play a song. So we notice that people like to sing from the balconies. Now you can karaoke and you and your whole neighborhood can like sing. And then at the end, we ended with like a spotlight, a hero of the day nominated by the user. So like could be a doctor or nurse, could be even like your
Nice.
your food drive, your Just Eats guy who climbs up 4 sets of stairs to deliver food to an elderly person because the elevator's broken. Like, so we just wanted to bring attention to people who are doing wonderful things and just make it a positive experience. Well, Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook, reached out to us and she endorsed us.
Nice.
So
That's a great app. What's the app?
So we're sunsetting it on Canada Day. The last song will be "Oh Canada," and then July 4th we're going to do the Star Spangled Banner. But you can check it out just to see what. Again, we said we're going to do this for $1,000 and we're going to do it on our time and just see what we can do. And we have media pickups, this and that, and again Sheryl Sandberg's endorsement. So the reason I bring that up is it doesn't matter to me who reaches out. It matters to me what their mission is. So Sheryl, obviously, she has her company called Lean In, her nonprofit, based on honoring her late husband and her work with women towards helping them get into tech and overcoming barriers. So because it was mission oriented, I love that. Whoever reaches out, quite frankly, I'd be thrilled if you're aligned in what you want to do. If you want to grow a company by being value driven, by doing something that matters in the marketplace, and by creating strong culture that your people come to work delighted in the morning and they leave and they just can't, they're tired because they're exhausted, but they're enthused to come back the next day, reach out.
Nice.
You could be Jeff. I mean, I like Jeff Bezos. I know it's controversial, but I love that guy. But hey, Karim, well, I'd probably say yes. I'm not going to lie, but I just want to like triple my revenue and by hook or by crook, which he wouldn't do. He's an ethical guy. I'll stand by that statement. Don't reach out. I'm past that stage. I'm not in that. I'm into mission-driven companies, value-driven companies, and companies that, again, magnetic. Your customers love you, or they're not your customers. So long answer to a very short question, but
It is, but it gave us some context and a little bit of fun. I look forward to hearing Canada Day on the app if I can find it.
Restituto.org. Yeah, it's on the App Store, Google, and Apple.
Awesome. Well, and it has been such a pleasure getting to know you a little bit better, and I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully shortly in the next few months. So, Karim, thank you for your time today.
No, thank you. And this was a fun interview. Hopefully the listeners got some value out of it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is sponsored by eBay Canada. eBay Canada is powering Canadian small businesses. Go to ebay.ca/up-and-running to open your online shop.